And here we go. And we're back. We're back. You know, it's crazy. I think I just heard the bloody church bells coming out. Anyways, you know what that is. Greetings,
No, no,
everyone.
yeah.
Welcome. Sorry.
Sorry. Nah, I can't hear them yet.
Good, good. That's not a bad thing. Greetings. Welcome back to Mad Pod. 19 hours. Everything interrupted today. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Mad Pod Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Murdock. Great to be here. And got my good friend here, Mr. Strings Theory, doing his thing. Got his channel. Check him out. And we just, come to do what we do. And hopefully, it resonates with you. We're just gonna explore a few things. But Strings, how you doing, man? I know you're a bit
Could be
on
better.
yeah.
Yeah, could be better. But yeah, shout out to all the viewers as well lately. I think that's amazing. Um, yeah, people really
Yeah,
listen,
man.
so that's amazing.
Yeah, you know, they've been paying attention and showing us some appreciation. So, you know, can't it does not go amiss, as they
Mhm.
say. So I
How are you?
appreciate them for keeping our spirits high and just at least, entertaining some of our eyes, despite how outlandish sometimes it may be.
Right.
Um, but I've been I've been the Mad Poet for a while, and this is part of what we do. You know, you travel experiences through rabbit holes, and it's all about where you end up and the inspiration that or the transformation that happens on the way there. So, yes, I think it's all relevant, and I embrace it all, man. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You've got to be about it, and so these through these type of situation is how you sort of kind of you find a way, you pave the way for yourself, nobody, if nothing else, and figure things out. As we know, Isaac Newton, the apple was it fell on his head one night or one day, and sometimes these things they happen by accident, where you have these epiphanies and things just voila, you just get created, and before you know it, your life's changed. You know, um, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Um, yes, I got a quote for you, Strings,
Please.
and let me know if this is enough context. The world is a beehive. Intentions to live long so I can see life. Despite roaming and bucking like my name is strife, croaking in a moment like an old tide, seeing grey to the sky like it knew my life. Intent to make a splash, but will hope survive. Will the world let me be? Will the listening ear, perhaps in time? Doing for the mind, so nightmares don't come to life. That's it.
Where were you with that one?
This one's called Walk On By. Let's give you a bit more context. Does that make any difference?
More would be nice.
All right. I thought you might say that. But yeah, I did carry an extra stanza for you. All right. So this is what comes after. It's not the whole thing, but it's still. I added it. Well, you might need another extra stanza. I'll start from the second one.
Mm.
Will the world let me be with a listening ear, perhaps in time, doing for the mind so nightmares don't come to life? Should they predict my demise, I must prepare for the crooked times. Machiavelli with bracknet eyes, rolled myself there with sacrifice. No exception, yet life. Roman like the Ronin type, the misery of men if not the will to fight. Relaxing in the moment, such was my resolve. Iceman in veins, Iceman in my veins, but seeking summer cold. A different type of wind for the mindless folks. That's the
Yeah,
stanza.
yeah, we get it. We get it.
You get it, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Uh, yeah. I like the title. It's like you're just trying to not actually walk. You're at a pace where you realize two worlds and how quickly they can collide. But I like what you said about not trying to let nightmares come to life. Um, closer than we think. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's something that, I had a thought about that as well recently. They say the internal somewhat dictates your external.
Yes.
But at the same time, your external does affect your internal, if you get my drift.
100%.
So it's a tricky concept. I'm merely saying at the same time, we all want greatness to be a reflection of our surrounding. But at the same time, we're fallible beings and we're not perfect anyway. So to the environment that we live, our reflection of that is somewhat going to be nuanced unless you're fixing your internal, thereby fixing your external. We know that's not realistic. So, of course. So, by default, if not for yourself, you're going to have people that are going through situations. So, what happens when those two worlds collide? You know, at the same time, we live in a world where you teach one, they say that you change the world by changing one or by affecting one person or, just one at a time sort of thing. By that definition, that means, what, one person can have a positive effect on the world, but that goes two ways. I'm just sort of kind of just idea that, what, whether it's a reflection, somewhat, this world is somewhat tainted by your own fallacy or by that of your brethren. There are stimuluses or different stimulus to affect your internal, not being what you entirely, not being what you want it to be in its entirety, sort of thing. So I make this statement. Yes, our internal reflects our external, but our external also affect the output or what we somewhat want to reflect outside. Somewhat of a nuanced situation. But let me be a bit more direct. So there's a question. Do you believe in our resilience as a race to overcome and live on?
Live on for what?
Live on as in to survive, to never cease to be
Nah.
in terms of extinction.
Uh, what's the story? Pandora's box.
Mm,
I love that because um, curiosity is the one trait we all possess. Whether the strength that it comes in is dependent on the individual, but those with gifted minds are always most likely to want to explore very dark paths um, in order to see the other side. And as you should,
mm,
um, the more you know,
yeah,
the better choice you can make. Um, but with what's happening now, um, it it really does speak for the reliancy that we're giving to external apparatus in the name of making things easier. But the more that identifies with how to make your life easier, sooner or later,
what do you think is what-
that codependency gonna hit like a drug, and there'll be no reversing it because
mm,
it's embedded in almost every nook and cranny. But it's part of the existence and experience to figure out how to combat that when it's in full form. Freedom of speech will really be a thing. It won't just be something you scream about. Um, so it's interesting to see how we maneuver this, and I think the more research that's come out or has yet to come out will be very enticing to help us understand um, that this has never happened, how serious this is, and
yeah.
how intriguing it will be for what effect that will have on the masses. Um, so
Mm.
fight the power, man.
But, but with what you just said, I'm
Mm.
curious. As you said, this has never happened. In this in our time or history where we're at this pinnacle where it's such a fine line between evolution, revolution, self-destruction, extinction, and it's sort of all up for it's all up in the air, sort of thing. It makes you wonder, and we have so many examples, of destruction. And the only reason why I say that is because we live in an age of smart, artificial. That's not necessarily, you get what I mean? Not necessarily organic, but they are animated and on the way to think for themselves. The potential for things coming to fruition that might be out of our control is so high.
I know you're trying to,
You
yeah,
get what I
you're
mean?
trying to
So,
be smooth, bro. It's already here. It's already here. It's already here.
oh, here's a question for you.
Mm.
Does the majority of the world live in abundance?
Ooh, there's two. I think there's two answers to that. One,
Mm.
yes. Going back to the point we made about your internal has an effect on your external, and I'm glad that I grew up to realize that wherever you are in the world is where you're meant to be. So,
Mm.
like, if I go to a place where I'm not familiar, I'm going to look to a local native to help me survive in that environment. And
Yeah,
if
it
I
makes sense.
remove my way of thinking from, you know, reliability on whatever system that makes life first world, then you will appreciate a huge mass of abundance that comes with living in an environment that is very different paced to where you're from.
Mm.
And the other answer is no, because um, the system at play is ramping up the control on resources and um, distorting the illusion of distorting the illusion of choice, i.e., before it's just like, hey, if you say something, we'll listen. Now they're like, yeah, no, that's it, mate. You had your chance. Like, just sign here and wait. So it's wild, man. Very wild. And the order you mentioned those four words as well. That's what entices me because it's like, which order is it going in first, or is it just all in one? Because extinction is, when I think of it, in this case, is when an organic creature ceases to think for itself.
You think what is that your definition of extinction? You said.
Yeah,
Whew. That's one for the books. Boy, that's a powerful one. It's a powerful one. Hmm.
this world was here way before us, way before. We're visitors, and I think a lot of people forget that. So it will do just fine if we take a little break, but we're gonna come back.
Come back how? You
That's
said extinction, man.
Yeah, that's because people are dead every day.
But by your definition, I understand.
Mm,
That's not what I was thinking, though.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's not what I was thinking. But it's an intriguing
Mm,
thought, nonetheless.
can I add to that actually as well? One of my favorite
So
series as well heavily speaks on, the whole thing of can we live in a cloud? It's like, well,
yeah,
okay, if you remove the aspect of living in a body, that means you are consciousness. So what were you? Are you the body or the consciousness? And I think until people realize that, and um, mankind's obsession with how to live in that state but have a control over it and a
yeah.
monopoly and etc., then um, I think they would just continue to think that's not what it is until they can prove it. And I think that's the backwardness of how they're approaching the experience that we have while we're here.
Hmm.
Because what now? If there's no electricity, you're dead.
It's funny, but yeah, the whole fact. But if I was to entertain the definition that
Mm.
you said, it brings to mind Simpsons, really and truly.
Ooh, which app?
Have you ever seen those futuristic Simpsons episodes where they have this, it's just the brain.
Right, yeah,
It's just the brain
100%.
that survived. So it's just the consciousness, you know, and there's no body. It's just a machine for body and whatnot. But ultimately, this person gets to live on, their consciousness gets to function. And by your definition, that means if the consciousness is alive and is functional, then this person, his presence is still here, sort of thing.
Mm.
So, you know, there's fruits to it. There's fruits to it.
Yeah. But then
There's
I
fruits
think
to it for sure.
I'll add, I'll just add that, the question that all people want to figure out the answer to of why we're here, and if
Mm.
mankind created what it did through forward thinking, what happens if they stop thinking? Human race over. That's what I think.
Is it me breaking up or you?
Oh, both of us, bro.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
paused and I paused, but I
Usually,
thought maybe it's just me
you
on my side.
use freeze a lot, but I just act like it's we just rolling the tape. Shout out StreamYard. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a whole fact. Um, all right, we're just making a rope, but because I don't necessarily notice a lot of this on the playback, so maybe the conversion is good anyway.
Yeah,
So
I'm
people
used to it,
don't,
bro.
if you're not watching it live, you're not going to know it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is,
Yeah,
and I think that's cool though, cause yeah, that would be like, oh, but yeah, yeah, that consciousness one, serious man. We've looked
I
into
hear
that,
you. I
boy.
hear you.
I've really looked into that.
Man. All right. Um, I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but it's more of like a Freudian discovery. They have the term the eros,
What's the term? Sorry.
and they have the term eros,
Yeah,
and then they have the term thanatos.
I have heard Eros, not that one.
Huh?
I've heard Eros.
Well, I'll break it down
Please, thanks.
just to show. So they said eros is more to do with the live drive, to do more like related to survival, sex, procreation, and then this might get you thinking. They have the thanatos drive. Well, thanatos. They have thanatos, which is more the death drive.
Death Drive.
Death drive.
Um, I'm gonna take a guess. Would that be um the will to live?
That would be eros.
Hmm. Okay, shoot.
Yeah. So eros is like live drive. That's why I call it live drive,
Hmm.
or the will to live. Survival and sex, as in procreation.
Yeah.
Then you have the thanatos, which is just death drive, or more self-destructive tendencies, or like. But essentially, what they're saying is, or the way they describe it is that the self-destructive tendency um, it turns into, which is internal, it goes into external.
Is there a
So you
third
sort
one?
of kind of like, sorry.
Is there a third one? Sorry.
Um, no, it's the same.
Okay.
It's
No.
just saying, you know, where you have
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
yeah. So it's just become, instead of internal, it becomes external, and so you it's more, as opposed to being focused on you, being destroying yourself, you're more focused on destroying others, or destroying your environment or the people around you, and just different things like that. That's um that's where it's, and that's ultimately what it's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw the word, the first thing that came to my head was, and it just goes deep, isn't it? It's Thanos, and I thought to myself, but
What's that?
I think that's Thanos from Marvel.
Oh, 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 oh. Man, look, listen. Mm.
Yeah, 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 you get it. Yeah, yeah. I thought you would have clocked on this, man.
No, because the way you said it, I thought
This is right up
you,
your street.
I thought you said the Greek word for thing, but I could have been way off as well. But yeah,
No, no, Thanos.
yeah. No,
But
come on, go.
these technical term is Thanatos.
Yeah, but you still saying that,
Their word is Thanatos.
but you
Yeah.
still saying that is no coincidence either. Like it has. That's why
Well,
I
that's what
asked
I'm
if there's
saying.
a third
So
one. Yeah,
no. But what
these
I'm
men know what
thinking
they're
is,
doing. You know, shout out Stan Lee.
they knew what they were doing.
Mm.
Yeah. So as you know, with great writers, we do a lot of research. You have to make it relatable, make it strengthen your story. You know, it just makes more sense. So I think, you know, a lot of these things that we're watching, X-Men and Marvel, all these things, there's a rich background story, information, historical context behind them. As you know, for example, you know, they have Xavier and Magneto, the X-Men, etc., which are derived from Malcolm X, and I think with
Martin
MLK.
Luther. Yeah, that's a fact, by the way,
You
people.
know, these are some, yeah. So these are some of the inspirations for the X-Men.
Mm.
So Thanos, being a derivative of Thanatos, which is the death drive, well, it makes total sense. That's why this ninja going around killing everybody, at least half of everybody.
Two words.
You know. Yeah. So I guess maybe it's just gives props to the creators, and it for me it just I guess maybe it's just, it makes it better for me, because that means, as we always say, man, there's method to the madness, and you know, the approach to creativity is always to learn the rules and then throw them out the window. And I think that's what they did with a lot of these creations. Stan Lee, as we know, he was a genius, you know, but his inspiration came from somewhere. So it's not a mistake per se to a lot of these things that we're kind of making connections to currently, or like just in general, because there's a lot more out there that is linked to a lot of these things that we've watched and we grew up on over the years, you know. So I respect it. I respect. So essentially, there was a reason why I gave you all this information. Um, is society doomed? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't. You can take it where you want to take it.
Um, yeah, I'm literally laughing as I say that because it's like I've never in my life identified myself as a realist. Um, so I just want to put that
Hmm.
out there. But we really go heavy in, as we say, these rabbit holes. For me to
Yeah.
share my views. Um, but part of my answer goes into the man himself, the two E's, evolution and extinction. It took me a very long time for me to realize why he killed half the planet.
Hmm. Okay, I'm listening.
And it's for those two things. Um, and I think Thanos is what you get when you merge. Um, yeah, Thanos is what you get when the two become one and evolve. There's a lot of terms, mantras that explain
Mm.
that final phase. Because the one thing I laughed as we got older was it like no, um, give humanity a chance, and he's like, yeah, well, you had it and you blew it. So like, why do you think just because you plead
Yeah.
and beg, you can stop what's inevitable? It was his favorite saying as well. And what he meant by that, I think, is if you don't grow, is you're cooked. And if you don't grow within a particular time period where you're given the path to do so, it does come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
Um, but I love Hollywood, man, because they just um, always say like, "Oh, he's bad," when it's like, well, a villain has to be very intelligent to orchestrate um, certain things and their mission as well for why they are driven to um, their views. That's not by like, oh, I woke up, I'm angry, and yeah, like someone's got to pay. It's like, what? No, there's a massive philosophy that goes into how articulate they
Yeah.
are. Um, and usually, funny enough,
Yeah.
it's always because of how flawed they think society is. And I think there's
Mm.
oh man, I can't remember who taught me this, but yeah, a superhero in the story will have the same inflicted scenario, but depending on how they take that, leads them to two pathways. One could want to save the world, so that way no one feels like the way that
Right.
he did, and the other is, um, you know, I'll let the world burn because they failed to learn from their mistakes, and someone's got to do it. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah. It's very interesting because, and the reason why I asked this question, like, think about the Ark, Noah's Ark, the flood, just the Bible alone, fire and brimstone. Anyone would think we're almost trying to predict our own demise, sort of thing. The amount of apocalyptic sort of trilogies of our demise that we sort of kind of we throw out there, and ultimately, how can we not be prone to destruction at this point if we have so many of these concepts being thrown into fruition, and let's be honest, some more most part, a lot of the world that maybe don't pay attention, which is, I would say, maybe the majority. I think I think it was Jung that says what you until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control you, and you will call it faith. So I'm only pointing out a lot of these factors that we sort of kind of we've grown to, and it's like seeds in our systems, in our minds that grow over time. What's the word? Masquerading. They're weeds, but they masquerade as gems, as plants, as blooming flowers. Ultimately, you turn out being somebody that just want to see the world burn. Like we've spoken about Joker a few times, and he's the perfect guy for that. He just wants to see the world burn. And who do you have to stop him? The Dark Lord, Batman. Do you get what I mean? So it's just it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. But this is where I wanted to lead. This is where I wanted to go with this. Are we cursed to repeat the mistakes of our forefathers?
Ah, people are lucky I don't pay for courses, you know. The word itself, man, um, you have to look at the origin. Curse. That's the definition suggests that a force inflicts some kind of redirection on your path, which usually is detrimental, which most people, um, without certain tools, define as um, unexplainable. And that's just the case, hence why it exists. But yes, we are, but what makes the son have a fair fight is how much he learns and gains in order to break them as he grows up. What is this? What's the saying? Alcohol runs in a family. It's running until you trip it up. But it's not as easy as, oh, I don't drink. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. Um,
Yeah,
because until one asks why is it in the family in the first place,
yeah.
then it's like, oh, so yeah, that's my take. Very good question.
Um, to what you just said, the first two things that came to my mind is one, epigenetics. And we know this quote. You ask somebody, why do you still practice this? Because I saw my parents doing it growing up. It's not the sense that, I do this because I want to do it. And it goes back to the statement I was just saying about, you know, these things that these weeds potentially that are planted, we don't necessarily recognize them. So we call them faith. They control us and we call them faith. But ultimately, where I'm going with this is the idea that there is nothing new under the sun. We've sort of seen it all before. But with that premise, right, it breaks the question, how many lives do we have left as the cat? How many lives do we have left? How many times can we survive another Athena's rant or a Thanatus situation, meaning an atomic destruction, external outright riot on the global scale? We've already seen, we're already a divisive bunch. So tendencies have been at an all-time destructive level. And from what I've seen, the average person struggles to control themselves on any given day. So, when you look at the world globally as a whole, it always, and it could be my scope, but sometimes it seems like, we're struggling to sort of kind of keep it together and remain and be one. And I say that a bit with a pinch of salt because I don't believe in such things that we're one. I do believe we like the idea to think we are. But to actually live in that present is, I'm not convinced we ever have or we will ever will. However, there is a strive to be, well, I'll say it like this. I think some strive to be somewhat civil or at least cordial with your neighbors, so to speak. But what about the others that seek only, thereby destroy and seek to have just one left? When I say one, I mean one nation or one civilization, one race, you name it, one tribe. Just, but that would mean the rest have to go. Where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? And how many lives do we have left if we're using the premise of the cat analogy? If there's one life, if there's only 9 lives, how many lives do we have left before the world goes like fireworks? I give you the floor.
Being smart is lit. Um, how many lives? Oh, as many as it takes. And I just wanted to double check the famous theory um, by, obviously, the experiment and name is after him, Erwin Schrödinger, Schrödinger's cat. His theory believes that If you
You're
put,
going there.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm trying my best to break it down, and I am intrigued as to why it came to mind as well. But his theory suggests that um, a living object is dead or is neither alive or dead until you observe it. Now, I find that fascinating because um, until you shine light on what it is that you need to be aware of, you're neither here nor there. Um, and your favorite saying from your boy, until you make the unconscious conscious, it's the same thing.
Mm,
So for those, the less lives it takes means you're doing a good job of figuring out what you need to not get caught in the loop of what every single day life is telling you what to be aware of. And even when you're talking about how in other parts of the world, um, isn't it fascinating how they have less than other parts of the world, but they are quick to show who holds structure that if they are unfair to them, they don't play. So what does that say about us?
mm,
How dependent are we on what they provide? When they're robbing us, not even
mm,
blind anymore, they're knocking, they're pulling up on the door and say, yo, give me that. But yeah, we're meant to have everything. So who's what? Do you know what I mean? Like who's really on the wrong side of what's happening right now? Um, so in that I marvel because um, this shift is inevitable if you don't get with the times of what it is that you need to be aware of. It will cost you. It will really cost you. Because hence why people say, where did the time go? I wish I did this. And it's like, well, if you're not listening to the environment and you're not listening to your internal, you're cooked. That means you're just listening to whoever dictates the games that we're here to play. And if you blame them, it goes back to what's the opposite of eros? Um,
Thanatos.
yeah, when you mentioned that, victim mentality came to mind. Very different from an animal. If it An animal can't live if it assumes it's a victim, but we can because of how um, malleable we are. And if you do that repeatedly, it's like forging iron. Like if you keep forging it or whatever the process is, ultimately it's gonna think, oh, this is it. But until one has that um, moment in their life, which we all have, this is what makes this thing fair. Um, I think the West termed it a midlife crisis. It's just you pumping the brakes and saying, "What am I doing?" I and it always comes about when you fulfill what they've told you to fulfill. Get this, attain that, make this, do that. You should be fine. So you got as many lives as you want, but boy, some are like, yeah, we getting ready to skate.
Yeah, yeah, it's a valid point. I'm with you. I'm with you. Obviously, these are very extravagant thoughts and questions. So I suppose I would just say, just have patience with us. But at the same time, I think these are necessary questions. Um, only through thought, only through thinking, only through evidence of social enactment or experiments by just, or should I say, organic experiments, because we are social creatures. So but I just think people are studying us. Do we find answers? Do we figure out the next leap in our evolution? Sometimes I think, or what I'm thinking now, is that there's many different forms of evolution. As you've already pointed out, sometimes it's, what's the word? It's it can be artificial, meaning it could be man-made, it could be orchestrated, it could be planned. I mean, we've already spoken about Thanos. He created a situation that I would say that is, if you really think about it, that's a predisposition for evolution in itself. Because it tethers on the line of the survival instinct. And I do believe, on that, such a scale, such a proportion, survival becomes the force or the need to evolve. You have no choice but to evolve. And so evolution takes place. Somewhat sort of like the X-Men. You have no choice but to evolve. It's not an easy feat, though. Not underestimate it. It's not an easy feat. But these scales are they're not easily tipped, I'd say that. But when they are, I would say catastrophe follows suit also. So you might have evolution, but as we say, everything comes with a sacrifice. So you bet yourself there's going to be a lot of deaths with this new level of being. Meaning there's not going to be everybody around to witness or be a witness to this new world that we live in, or this new evolved person that we may become. And I think you're right. Thanos is an example of that, because look what he did. Look what he did. He took out half the world. And look what it did to reverse what he did. Now, if we're going to be real about it, I wouldn't necessarily say that's realistic what they did. Because think about it. They literally had to go back in time to stop this guy. Really? So I don't,
go there,
I
bro?
don't, I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. What is with you? What were you gonna say?
The example of that is literally definitive. And again, that was another article that has gone viral in the scientific community about what quantum physics is proving as of late. And it states that
Mm,
if you change the past is more, um, you can change your past more than you think, which has an effect on your future. Quantum physics is now supporting the idea. It's not, and when I say that, it's not like, oh, I'm, you know, pro science, but it helps break down what people do in their day to day lives, or what groups of people have been doing for thousands of years. But a simple reenactment of that is, um, if you are stuck in the past about what you tell yourself, or a
mm.
routine, or a habit, or a moment that you refuse to get past, it will ruin your future. So one essentially goes back in the past in their mind. But in the film's case, it was for them not to lose their loved ones, or not to let go of relationships that they weren't ready to let go. So with that, um, a question I wanted to throw onto what you were saying, and I completely agree, because evolution is not for the faint-hearted, but um, one must do it. And my thing is, when it comes, will you accept the call?
uh, yes, I don't. But I say that to say I don't think we would have a choice. Not if you believe in what Eros is and the idea of surviving or survival. I don't think there's a choice in that matter.
Uh, until one is able to fuse the two and become the Thanos definition of that, they're stuck. Because evolution for me will always signify, shout out Maslow, the top of that pyramid, the highest quality need for the human experience is the I think it's what, the spiritual, or that side of one's existence. The closer you are to that, the more in tune you are with yourself. Because if one can't see what they're surviving from, they're just going to be like, "What? My bills are paid, and the government's a bit crazy. So what are you telling me that I need to evolve from?" So half of
I'm with
this
you. I'm with you.
is just, yeah, it's really, now if you know, you know. That's where we're getting to. And if not, um, our internal is really separating us from um, the externals of people that we were closely associated with. Oh, I never hear from you anymore. Life's completely changed. And even if you can explain it, the way that it's happened, you can't elaborate. And I think that's what makes life so grandiose, because it's like you're seeing it happen, but if you're to try and find the words, sometimes you can't. And that's what makes this what it is.
I hear you. I hear you. But a part of me still believe in the fact that, well, let's put it like this, because I think for the most part, most of the world are, we want to be optimists, but at the same time, I've got to be real and say most of the world is still stuck surviving. And for me, I can't help but think that in extreme situations like that, most people will revert back to their basic instincts, as we've seen time and time again. So, in such a situation, I don't believe it will be a problem for people to make the tough choices, the tough decisions, to choose themselves for the most part, as opposed to making a sacrifice, sacrificing themselves. So obviously,
It's 20 hours.
that to me, I don't see. What are you gonna say?
Thanos is about to pull up again. That's
Yeah, I bet.
it's true.
Yeah, you may be right.
He's
You may be
pulling
right.
because and
No.
one thing before we go is like politically, look what is being passed. Some of these bills that are being passed is like, wait, what? Like, are you even allowed to do that? Like, what does that mean for the quality um uh, of us being here as citizens? Like, it's no longer, oh, what if anymore. They're pulling up, and that squeeze on society is what, um, if it continues, will people think only about? No, they definitely will. But I think that squeeze is going to have to force people to realize what is happening, and um, are they only going to be concerned with what is affecting their day to day, or what could affect their future decisions as well to better themselves? Because if you're thinking about future from a human point of view, I think that's a bit more added on to just survival, because forward thinking and future thought now says, okay, you're not just thinking about how you're going to eat today. You're going to think about how you're going to eat for the next 5, 10 years and how you eat. So you elevate your thinking, it starts to contribute to the quality of life and perspective you want to have. And if that is being under threat and you realize the value of that, that's going to make you want to get up and really say, okay, no, something is coming and I need to figure out what's important.
To your first retort, to that I would say there is no us. That's what it shows me, and there never was. I would say that would be what they're thinking. Um, going back to Maslow's theory, I think at the beginning, the constitution of that is survival. And I think that's where we would revert back to survival, basic instincts. Unfortunately, you're muted.
Yeah, no, yeah. What's the saying? It's the few far from the many. I think that's how it goes. But
Yeah. So that's what I mean by that is you know, in a sense, it goes back to the typical premise that we're aware of in society: the rich get rich, the poor gets poor, the poor gets poorer. In this case, the rich is saved, or the great minds, etc., including the rich, are saved. But the unfortunate, the poor, gets discarded of, I would say, ultimately. Oh, that was for the books, strings. Thank you for coming through.
I can't,
Appreciate
man.
you. I
That
know
was
you're
fun.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, just another rabbit hole, and yeah, man, this was one that was good to unpack, good to share. But as we say, just support the page, have a listen, and if you feel like it, share a like or give us some feedback.
Yes, please, questions, man. It'd be nice.
Yes, indeed. Once again, Strings, you have anything before we go?
Um, cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. But I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree. All right, everyone. On to next time. Take care. Strings, man, Paul, we're out.
Peace.
See you.